My name is Carina Gardner, and I'm what you would call a practical designer. If you're ready to create a life that you love, become an incredible force for good, and generate income while pursuing your dreams, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to Make and Design. Hi, designers. Today I'm here with Andi Stanfield, and I'm so excited because she is such an amazing entrepreneur. She has a wonderful podcast, which we're going to talk about. Welcome, Andi.
Thank you so much. Happy to be
So,
here.
I'm so happy to have you. So, let's first talk about quilt police. So, I thought this is a good place for us to start. I know that very often we start with like the story of what you're doing, but I actually think starting with quilting police is a really good way for us to talk. So, tell me your feelings about quilting police.
Yeah, there is this ambiguous them out there that in the quilt world we've labeled as quilt police. And these are the critics that come along and tell you that you're doing it wrong and, that you're not following the rules. Well, you need to know the rules so you can break the rules because they don't apply in every situation. And I try to embrace that with my beginners, especially. I teach some beginning classes in my local area, and I have one way of doing things, and I follow the majority of the time. But there are circumstances when I just do my own thing, and I want to give that freedom of expression to new quilters, that if you find a way that works for you, it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing because you are creating the finished object that you are happy with.
Yeah. Do you think that the fear of judgment keeps people from getting into quilting?
I I think it limits their progress and their exploration of all the different techniques. Um, I think a lot of us have that fear of judgment, fear of failure. Where as we get older, we're less and less willing to try something new because we don't know what it feels like to be that inexperienced person anymore. And it seems really scary to step out and, oh my gosh, what if I mess this up? But a fellow quilter who I've encountered on YouTube has a great saying: it's only fabric, it's only thread. They're making more of it every day. So take a chance and you may fall in love with something new.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I remember the first quilt I made, which I did in my 30s. I had two kids at the time. And I was fearful, and I was already a fabric designer. That was the other thing. So like felt even more like I was gonna have eyes judge me. So I chose this really, really easy pattern. It was like a brick rectangle pattern. So I didn't have to match up seams or do any of that because I was so worried that I was gonna be doing it wrong. What do you see your beginners saying or feeling while they're working on their first quilt?
A lot of them are just thrilled that they've done it. They get finished with that first block, and I'm all about cheering people on and giving that positive reinforcement. And so after you've sewn that first seam, hey, you're a quilter, look at that. And so it's just that sense of accomplishment that, oh wait, this isn't as hard as I thought it would be, look at that. And I recall hearing people that when they do have that kind of unusual experience of doing a hard quilt without realizing that it's so hard, they're like, well, no one ever told me I couldn't. That was just the pattern I liked. And so I dove in and yeah. And then everybody else is like, oh my gosh, I would never do that. That's so hard. And well, everything in quilting is, just break it down into those little seams and
What I wonder is, do you think there's a certain personality that's more worried about the judgment of the police, and then there are some people who are tend to be a little more like go with the flow? Is that a personality thing, or do you think all beginning quilters are nervous that they're not going to do it right?
mm, I think it goes a little more probably to individual personalities and not quilters in general, because it really does run the gamut. For a while, I found that all the new quilters I met were just retiring from teaching and nursing. So I'm like, okay, all these, caring professionals, they're still wanting to give, and so they're going to learn how to make quilts, make them for all their family and friends and church groups and charities, and cover the world. And then I've talked to other people who are like, oh my gosh, there's so many engineers in quilting. They must love the math part of it. So, and then there's people, ladies that are saying, oh, I hate math. And yet they're doing all this intricate, cutting and piecing of quilts that does take some math skills. So,
Don't you think it's because, though, that people see the creativity in creating a quilt? There are some structural elements, like you get to choose the fun of choosing fabric and choosing thread and all of that and following a pattern, but like it does feel like this real creative process.
yeah, and it's so tangible. You have the physical fabric and you are stitching, your hands are on the fabric the whole time. And there is a lot of satisfaction that even if you just have time to sew a couple seams, you get one little block. Hey, I accomplished something today, and you can see it because it's right here in my hands. So I think that does um, appeal to a lot of people, and it meets a need in our society that we lose when we have so much digital technology and screens in our lives so much.
I think you're right about that. I hadn't really thought about it, but we do spend a lot of time in screens. We're recording this on a screen today, right? And I do think that there is so much power in physically touching and feeling something, which is what I hear from people who are excited about my fabric lines or excited to be making a quilt or sew something. That's so interesting. Are you running into that more and more? Do you teach a lot of classes? I should ask that.
I teach a handful in my local area, and I'm limited to the weekends because I still have a full-time job that's unfortunately not related to quilting. Um, but yeah, I would like to expand those teaching offerings and move into the digital space, as we're talking about this kind of dichotomy of our digital lifestyle and our physical hobbies. But I know online teaching is makes it accessible for a lot more people that can't get to a shop. And we all have busy lives. So a lot of times it's nice to be able to do things on your own schedule.
Yeah, so amazing. Well, speaking of digital, we do need to talk about your podcast. Will you tell everyone about your podcast and why you started it?
Sure. I co-host Quilting on the Side with a fellow quiltrepreneur, Tori, and Tori and I had crossed paths several times, and she is just this ball of fire, and she inspires me because she is one of these people that just gets an idea and implements it so fast. And I'm full of ideas. I just am a little bit slower to get things going, and she was willing to partner with me, and I just thought that sharing our stories of our entrepreneurial journey in the quilting world would meet a need, because there are so many people out there that love the pattern design, that love the fabric creation. There's so many pieces of this industry that are available to bring in a side income. And both of us are working moms. And so we want to share our story and hopefully inspire some other people with the quilting story and the entrepreneurial story as well.
Yeah, so amazing. I hope you guys go check out that podcast. Furthermore, you have some crazy, fantastic things that have been happening to you. So, will you tell us a little bit about Batik Island?
Yes, it's Island Boutique is
Island
a
Batik.
yeah, I've got to get those terms in the right order. They're a fabric company that I have partnered with for several years. I was part of their ambassador program um, for a couple years, and I've stayed connected with them and they put out a call for designs for their fall winter 2024-25 catalog, and I actually had 2 designs accepted. It's one of those, be careful what you wish for sometimes. Make sure you have the bandwidth to execute when you're submitting multiple designs. But I was able to uh, submit a paper piece pattern, and then I'm really excited about the block of the month that will be available to shop owners in early 2025. So that has been a interesting journey to get that done and get all the pieces organized, because it's one thing to design a quilt pattern, just write up all the instructions for a pattern, but then to break it down into a block of the month is another added layer of challenge there, but a fun design exercise.
Yeah, so incredible. You also have an event coming up during QuiltCon. Will you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, QuiltCon is an amazing show put on by the Modern Quilt Guild. And in 2025, starting February 20th, it will be in Phoenix, Arizona, which just happens to be my backyard. So I'm happy to invite all quilters to come on down. Even if you just like to stand and admire, you don't have to actually make anything to participate. But Tori and I, as the co-hosts of Quilting on the Side, are hosting an audacious in-person workshop. And this will take place the day before the show kicks off. And we just want to get some fans of the podcast, some entrepreneurs together, and dive into some business building topics before we enjoy the week of inspiration that is QuiltCon.
So incredible. So, how can they get a hold of you to find out more about that? Do you have like a website they can visit?
Yeah, please visit quiltingontheside.com and you will see the events tab, and all the information is there for our listeners.
So incredible. Andy, thank you so much for joining us. I love this whole idea of not being worried about the quilting police. I love the networking you're doing. And the things she said without you guys even saying it, her really saying it. And I know those of you who come and listen, a lot of times you're listening because you want to start a creative entrepreneurial career, and very often in design or something else. But she's got a podcast, she's teaching classes, she's got all these wonderful things that are happening on the side in an area of expertise that she really loves. Do you want to leave us with any thoughts or advice for those that are considering getting into quilting or any kind of creative career?
Yeah, I would definitely say uh, take action before you think you're ready. Do it now. You'll learn a lot as you go, and reach out. We're all happy to chat with you, encourage you, answer your questions.
Yeah, so good. Thank you so much, Andy, for being on. Guys, everyone, I hope you go check out the podcast, go check out some events, especially if you're in the Phoenix area. Keep up the amazing work, and we'll see you soon. Did you know you have access to more free design content, die cut files, and sewing patterns? Join our exclusive VIP group for free by going to designsweetcourses.com/free.